Hi ladies, let's do a 10-minute spine prep. We're going to start down on hands and knees, and this practice is going to take you through flexion, extension, and moving the body laterally. So if you need a little bit more prep on your wrist, you can always check out my 10-minute wrist prep if you're ready to go. Let's come into tabletop position. So as you start in tabletop position, we're looking to get the spine in a neutral position. So the chin will be slightly tucked. And for your neutral, you may need to tip or tuck your pelvis a little bit. So that will come with a little bit of play. We're going to begin with spinal segmentation. So keeping the rest of the spine still, so feel solid in your hand position and in your legs. We're going to nod the head, lifting and lowering so the chin is tucked. And so we're isolating here the head and the neck, keeping everything else still. And we'll go one more time, lifting and lowering. So once you've brought your head back into that neutral, keeping that slight tuck, we'll isolate now the lumbar spine and the pelvis. So we're going to keep everything else still as we begin to tip the pelvis forward and then tuck it under, resisting the urge to get the head and the thoracic spine involved. Let's move through 3 more of these. And then come back into your neutral position. We've saved the hardest for last. We're going to do thoracic now. So generally we're going to have a tendency to want to get the shoulders involved. Our body wants to move through the path of least resistance. So really be strict with yourself and keep your shoulders and the arms out of it here. So as we move through the thoracic, we think about this movement happening with the sternum here. It's much easier to connect with the front of the body and see if we can get a little bit of movement through the upper back. And so this might be a lot smaller and you will probably be fighting the urge to move through the pelvis and through the shoulders here. But as best you can, try and keep everything else out of it, just moving through the muscles and the spine in the upper back. Let's go one more time. And then come back to neutral. So from here, we're going to move through a little bit of articulation through the spine. So we're going to move as if we're trying to move one vertebrae at a time. So again, coming into your tabletop, and if you need to, you can always do this on forearms. We'll start with the sacrum here. Although they are fused, if we visualize that they are individual bones, we're going to start with this tuck under. So nice and slow. Feel for moving through one vertebrae at a time. Coming into what you might know as your cat position. And just taking notes of any parts in the spine where it feels a little chunky, as if chunks of bones are moving rather than individual bones. Again, we'll start at the sacrum, so we'll tip the pelvis forward. Beginning to ripple up the spine. and coming towards that cow shape. All right. We'll reverse it now, so we'll start at the head, tucking the chin. Nice and slow through the upper back, keeping the rest of the spine in position until it's its turn to move. Last time, starting with the head again, lifting the chin, thinking about moving through upper back, thoracic spine. And coming back towards that cow position. From here, let's come up into a standing position. Again, we'll move through this spinal articulation. We want to start rolling down the spine, and you can do this up against a wall if you feel like you need a little bit more feedback here. So feet comfortable distance apart, maybe a little bend into the knees. Starting at the top of the head, the neck, nice and slow. Rolling down the spine. And so here, notice again if there's that chunky section of vertebrae that wants to move rather than something that feels like one vertebrae at a time. You can always replay through that. So for me, I'm getting a little bit of chunkiness here. If I roll up the spine a little bit and replay that roll 1, 2, 3 times, just until it feels a little bit more like that articulation is happening. And you can use the front of your body to help you connect with what's going on in the back. So as we roll, thinking about the sternum, as we move through the thoracic, thinking about the belly, the abdominal muscles to help us connect with what's going on in the lower back. Rolling yourself all the way down until you come towards a folded position. We're going to come up, so starting sacrum once again, feel for really purposefully and thoughtfully rolling up one vertebrae, stacking on top of another. And again, using the front of the body to help you connect to what's going on in the back. Rolling all the way up into your standing position. We'll move through the body again, this time laterally. So knees can be bent. We're going to take the ear to the shoulder and resist the urge to bring the shoulder up. Let that arm be nice and heavy. Begin to tip over as you come into a side bend, keeping head heavy, until you get this connection of rib cage and hips. Once there, you can give your knees a little bit of a bend and take your arm overhead. See if you get a little bit more space to play through this lateral flexion. Once you're ready to come up, push through the heels, reversing this movement. Arm will come down, slowly coming out of that side bend. Head last thing to lift up. To the other side again. Arm nice and heavy as you drop your ear towards the shoulder. Tipping over, keeping that head heavy. And once you get to that place where you can't really move anymore, bend your knees, sweep your arm overhead. And we're staying on the same plane here, so we're not tipping forward or back. Pressing through the heels, lifting up. Arm will come down out of that side bend. head back towards center. Moving all the way around, let's come into this extension of the spine. So we want to press down through the heels. Feel for tucking the tailbone under a little bit here, and you can rest your hands on the low back. You set the shoulders, feel for, rather than pushing your hips forward, feel for this downward energy happening here. So as you press down, engaging through the glutes, feel for lifting up through the chest. You can take your head back or keep it more neutral if you like. Doesn't need to be a huge back bend or huge extension. Feel for lifting up through the chest. Take one more breath. And then lifting up and coming out. Have a little roll through the shoulders, have a little shake out. And you're done. 10-minute spine prep. Thank you very much.